I have my first guest in the mothership, Redbridge Studios, all the way in sunny Bolton. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Bucko. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
I'm brilliant, mate. Can you introduce yourself to the listeners, please?
My name is Chris Buckley, or Chris Buckley, known as Bucko. I am a DJ and event organiser in Berry.
Awesome. Now, getting you on here, you're a music lover like me. What caught your attention first growing up?
I think massive influence from my mum and dad, really. Like a lot of people, or older siblings, you get introduced to music before you find your own way when you get to a certain age. But yeah, my mum and dad were a massive influence.
What kind of music were they listening to?
Rock and roll, 50s, 60s rock and roll. My mum likes country music, so I was introduced to different genres from an early age. That's something I've taken through all my life.
Right, so what was the first record that you loved to listen to over and over?
Well, being the age I am, it's a bit, it's probably Michael Jackson's Thriller, to be honest, which was for a lot of people, especially of my age, because back in the early 80s, what was there? What were you listening to?
Yeah.
So the first mega record, and everybody back then liked Michael Jackson, so yeah, it was probably Thriller.
And I think something about the Michael Jackson albums was the production as well. It sounded like stereo, right? Was it in mono?
Quincy Jones,
Quincy
wasn't it? The
Jones.
genius. Michael Jackson was just a perfect combination. Great records, great writing. He's the prince of pop for a reason, really, wasn't he? So
Do you still play Michael Jackson now?
occasionally.
Man, come on. The legacy never dies.
Absolutely.
Now, you're from Manchester. How has it changed over the years, for better or worse, would you say?
What, Manchester,
Yeah.
or just everywhere in general?
Just Manchester, focus on that.
You know what? I go back home now and again, but I haven't been out in Manchester for ages. I think the last time I did go out in Manchester was a Saturday afternoon, and it was booming. It was like, New Year's Eve was years ago.
Yeah.
Saturday afternoon, and because it's obviously a massive tourist destination, and stag do's and M-do's and things like that, and student population, so it's always going to be a vibrant and thriving city, plus musical heritage, football, everything else. Manchester's always going to be up there, isn't it?
Yeah. What do you think makes Manchester so unique compared to other cities?
The people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like me.
What, are we friendly? Are we...
Yeah, Northerners in general are friendly, aren't they, compared to other parts of the country? Or that's how we're supposed to be perceived, because it's true.
Yeah.
But musical heritage, football, Manchester's got it's just vast in it. You can go down loads of different avenues if you're going to talk about that place.
Right. So do you think Manchester's still got that friendly vibe?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Where was your favourite
Have you ever been to London?
Oh, I have, yeah. And I find London's a little bit like New York. You walk past people, you say, hey, mate, what's the time? And they just walk past you.
They ignore you. Yeah, they think
ignore
that
you.
you're kind of a beggar or a mugger.
I know.
Yeah, especially if you got a northern accent. But yeah, it's a crazy place. Plus, everyone's Australian in London.
And that's a good question as well. I spent most of my young DJ career playing in Manchester, and it was always like everybody having it. It was like a family. Then when I played in London, I played it past you. I felt a bit of distance between me and the crowd.
Yeah.
Bit of, aggression. Where was your favourite spot to go and listen to live music?
Do you know what? I have never had a preferred venue. When some people go, I don't like the arena, it's too big, it's too this, it's too that. I suppose some of my earliest memories, gig-wise, are from the Academy and the Apollo.
Yeah.
So those places will always have a place in my heart, because I've seen some amazing acts over the years.
Yeah.
But I have never had, as long as I'm listening and seeing live music, it don't matter if it's a 100 capacity venue or a massive arena. Live music's live music. It depends who you're seeing, not the venue that you're in.
Yeah, you're an indie guy, so what are your top 5 bands from Manchester ever?
To be honest, yeah, I'm an indie guy, but I'm an all-rounder.
Right.
You can't I don't like to be pigeonholed,
Yeah.
because I like that much vast music. But so my top 5 indie, all right, Oasis, Stone Roses, Happy Mondays, In Spiral Carpet, the obvious Manchester ones there for you straight away, Charlatans and all, or Joy Division.
Joy Division, yeah.
New Order.
Do you see any of them live?
Yeah, I see most of them live.
Right. What
No,
was your
I
favourite?
never saw Joy Division, obviously,
Right.
because I'm still a young man.
Yeah. What was the most chaotic live event out of those bands, would you say?
Either Happy Mondays or Oasis, because everybody, they act a certain way, or certain blokes or certain people act a certain way at these gigs, don't they? They get a little bit, should we say, childish or living in the moment. It's a crowd full of people who think they're Liam Gallagher or Sean Ryder, and everyone's getting involved.
So what makes these Manchester bands and the Manchester people connect together so much differently from the London bands like Pulp and all that? They were a bit...
Bob from Sheffield.
Yeah, right, sorry. But what's the difference between that sort of London connection with the fans? Because Manchester seems like we're a massive unity, aren't we? We stick together.
Yeah, there's, I suppose, a bit like Liverpool. Again, it's that northern thing and that the friendliness, the vibe, the getting involved. Like you said about when you're DJing at Pasha, to put it in a way, you've got a crowd full of trendies there, not a crowd full of people there for the music and everything else. And yeah, when it came to the indie scene in Manchester, there was a certain look that everybody wanted to have, Perry Boy look and all that business. But no, I think, again, it just goes back to the northern friendliness, the togetherness, the heritage of the music. That's the best way I can put it, I think.
Did you feel that crossover from indie music to like dance music? You know, like the Hacienda used to host Joy Division, people like that, and then it became a dance venue. What did you think about that transition?
Well, that was all the time. Because at the time, when I think it was Oakenfold that started remix, the Mondays weren't doing what they then became to do, because Rope for Luck was remixed, I think, by Oakenfold.
Yeah.
So that put it as then a club tune.
That's right.
Plus, at that particular time in the Hacienda, there were certain aspects of the Hacienda people were getting involved with, which combined with dance music, they just came together. Yeah. If you know what I mean. So the substances, basically, that people were doing, as well as these remixes.
Yeah,
that's what. Then when you got the crossover, it became popular to remix indie music into a dance tune.
So you think there was the substances that fueled that path for more of a dance culture?
Definitely. I was once at a chat with a well-known Manchester producer and DJ, and he said he used to go in the Hacienda all the time. And then he said he went in one night and it was completely different. He said, and everybody in the crowd looked different. They're all a lot more friendly and happy, and everyone was dancing. He said they had a certain look on the face. He said, and that's what changed it. So that's what I mean. I mean, that was before my time. But that's when things started happening. It's a cultural part of musical history, and it was for certain factors and certain reasons. And
that's interesting. Did you remember the transition from substances being used in clubs to being used in pubs?
No, because when were they ever not involved in pubs or society or I don't know, me, because I'm a very clean living, good, healthy, nice Christian boy.
Good answer.
Yeah. So I don't know, because growing up where I grew up as well, in the city Manchester, all kinds of things were going on in pubs and different venues. So I don't know if there ever was a crossover transition, or if things have just become more readily available through time, or more affordable to people in working classes and whatnot.
Okay, when did you personally decide to dedicate your life to music and events? Because now you're a DJ, you're an event promoter.
In the womb.
Right, in the womb. But when was that point in your life? Like, some people think I want to be a boiler engineer, I want to be a pilot, and then some of us just decide, right, I'm going to take the risk and just get into music, which is not an easy career. It's it's quite, you got to be committed to it. Yeah,
I think it's really was no forethought into it. It kind of fell into place. So I do believe in fate and destiny, and also on the other hand, what else was I going to do? No interest in being an electrician. I've never really had an interest in computers or sat navigation, as you found out 5 minutes ago when I couldn't find this place.
Yeah.
So being a music lover, that was a natural path for me to take, but what way and what path at an early age I didn't know. It's only when I started DJing, and I was never one to push myself as well as a DJ. I was just happy to be playing music, and when you were getting paid for it, brilliant. So rather than push and try and do clubs and be cool like certain other mates of mine that were going down the dance route, I didn't know what was best for me as a DJ, because I liked all these different genres.
Yeah.
So we're just trying this and that and just enjoying it, and that was just part of, I kind of coasted my way through it, really.
Yeah, so you're like me. You obviously, at the time when you started DJing, there was only Technics or vinyls, right? I mean, what kind of setup were you using when you started gigging live back then?
The first setup I had to SoundLab copy of 1200s. But in a big coffin case. They weren't really durable for mobile DJ. So I had to go down, because it was early 90s as well, or early to mid 90s. This was back in the day when DJs still had, the consoles and the phone and, a couple of sets of speakers and very minimal dodgy lights.
So you were carrying around probably 80 kg of stuff.
Yeah, all sorts. You couldn't get anything in the car back then like you can now with a laptop and an hard drive. This was speakers and amplifiers and boxes of records and boxes of CDs.
Yeah.
You needed a van.
Did you have to rent a sound system back then as well off somebody?
No, I had my own right from the off.
Ah, right, okay, so you're the full package.
Yeah.
Where did you source your record collection?
Again, started off with nicking stuff off my brothers and my mum and dad, and I also started buying records from a very early age. If I liked a record, I needed it, I wanted it in the house and put it on the turntable that I had back then.
Yeah.
You know, and then once I got into my teenage years and kind of knew I wanted to be a DJ, every single penny I got, I was working part-time back then at Bellevue Dog, so I was getting a wage as well as going to school.
Yeah.
So I used to go to HMV all the time, Virgin, on a Monday when the records would get released. So they're always cheaper on a Monday, about $1.99 before they charted and went up. And then I'd go to, there's a place on Hyde Road, it's not there anymore, called Discovery Records, and it was an Aladdin's Cave of records. You could go in and go, right, after this, and the bloke would go, and I think I've got a copy, and he'd disappear in the back, and he'd come back out, and he'd have a box of 7 inches, and there you go. It's just, I think it was like the TARDIS, that place, because the back room must have been immense. The amount of stuff that he had, he very, very seldom didn't have it, but he could always order you a copy of something in, so it took time, but it was something I enjoyed, building up that collection, and I always prided myself back when I was DJing, no matter what age I was. If someone come up and went, have you got this? Now, these days with Spotify and everything, you know, it's at your fingertips. Yeah. But to go, oh, yeah, I have.
So have you still got them 7-inch originals? Yeah,
still got everything.
So I always say a proper DJ has a 7-inch collection.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
There's no way you can get rid of all that history.
Now, can you, I mean, this is a tough question, but can you remember the first ever record you played on your first ever gig?
Can I heck?
You know?
No, that was 30 odd years ago.
What would it be now?
I can't remember what record I played last night.
What would you play now?
What is the first tune?
First tune. Imagine you just setting out, first tune, you're nervous as hell. What are you going to play first to get it kick-started?
Well, you know, these days people talk about sets and everything, aren't they? So a lot of people have got it preempt before they've even played to a live crowd and you know, got that education.
Yeah.
So I suppose kids these days have already got the first hour lined up before they know if anyone's going to react to that and learn how to read a crowd, etc., etc. But your first record's got to be something that everyone's going to get up to or try, or you're going to try. So you've got to drop some kind of banger, aren't you?
Right. Okay. Oh, you do the banger first because, like, you know, we always thought you got to do a bit of a warm up, drop your bangers in the middle. But I'm with you on that. I don't like people. I've got mates that used to put records in a box and they had it all laid out.
Yeah.
They would stick to that no matter what.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Now, if there was a fire in your house and you could only save 5 albums, what would they be and why?
Well, you'd have to put that down to who my favourite bands are then.
Right.
So, you know, my Prodigy collection's coming with me straight away.
Excellent.
My Beatles collection's coming with me without a doubt. In fact, I'd probably take the Beatles collection before the Cat.
Yeah.
Oasis, Happy Mondays, and Motorhead.
Motorhead. Ooh,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you've been DJing probably over 20 years, right, if I'm correct?
That's right,
Mostly around Berry. Can you tell us about your DJ career, like what you've been doing?
No, not Berry's only been for the last, say, 24, 25 years. Before that, it was Manchester-based. So I did places in town. I was resident corporate DJ at Granada Studios.
Wow.
So I did there, you know, the dues throughout the year on Baker Street and in the Rover's Return and things like that.
Yeah. Kidding? That's
No.
awesome.
Yeah, well, I worked there. I was also the DJ on the New York Street, which was part of the Granada Studios tour.
Wow.
So that's kind of where I honed a lot of stuff as well as I was learning and developing my musical taste and buying this and that. Like I say, going to stands, Discovery Records.
Yeah.
I'd be buying things like that to play on the New York Street.
So where was this sort of the route that people would take? Like, what was like the top 5 bars? You know, you go bar hopping in Manchester back then for the indie crowd or whatever.
Well, the indie crowd was always 5th Avenue, 42nd Street. They were the ones, they were the clubs that we always went to. You always ended up in, obviously, if you're of a certain age, you went to the Hacienda.
Yeah.
But the Hacienda wasn't really an indie club.
No.
It had an indie night, but it was more known for the dance music and things like that.
It was originally like a venue space, wasn't it? That
Yeah,
built into a club, yeah. What was your most memorable gig?
Do you know what? I've had that many.
If you could go back to one gig and do it again.
Probably, That's an hard one to answer that, because when you've been doing it as long as I have, you know, and I'm not saying, because not every gig is brilliant. You have a lot of duds as well. You do, and if anybody says you don't, then they're lying, aren't they?
Yeah, sure.
So there isn't any ones that really stand out. Going back to the Granada days, you could be DJing on that street at certain events, because Kiss did events down there, and we got involved a little bit in that.
Yeah.
So you'd be DJing to thousands of people, and if the majority of them are reacting to what you're doing on that street, it's nothing like a huge crowd reacting to that track that you're playing, or those couple of tracks, or whatever it is. So I would probably say, and I was young and enthusiastic back then.
That's the key.
So yeah, so I'd probably say back in those days of the 90s, and they were just fun times as well. A bit different to now, and as I've got older, gigs have got stressful. Crowds have changed, the people have changed, COVID changed things.
Yeah.
Your attitude to music and musical, you can't play these days what you were playing back in the 90s.
Yeah. I've noticed as well, like, I've been living in Vietnam for the last 15 years, so I've been observing what DJs are doing here via Facebook, social media, and it seems to be like there's a massive stage gap between you and the crowd now for security reasons, which... I hate that, the bigger the crowd, the further you're away. You're not connecting with people.
There's no intimacy, really, is there? I've grown up, and most of my gigs, people can basically throw their arms around you and whisper in your ear what they want for a request. That's what I've always been used to.
My favourite gig ever is my first gig at Venus, because it was just a big thing for me. It was the first time I got on a flyer. I was so nervous. I was praying in the toilet not to fuck up, you know what I mean? And I remember I made 100 CDs, which I gave out to everybody. Yeah. And people still say to me today, I was there that night.
Right.
I've never done that since.
See, that's good, that as well. And it must have been a great gig if people went, I was there, and remembered it.
Mate, exactly. I remember me and my mate, Nick, we used to go to Manchester just to collect flyers every weekend. And if we didn't go one weekend, you'd miss out on these collections. And I remember coming back on the train one day, and I said, I'm going to get my name on that flyer one day. And he went, no way. And I said, seriously, because back then, getting your name on a flyer, you had to be something special. You had to have money for your equipment. You had to be able to buy records. I used to see DJs coming home, like walking past my house with bags of records every day, and I thought, I'm so far behind them, I'm never going to be able to catch up. But once you get that in your mindset, it's possible to do anything, innit?
Of course it is.
All right. Now, what's your most embarrassing DJ story that you can share with us?
So I've been thinking about this since you sent that question. So I can't remember, the best gig ever, but it can the embarrassing ones. I'll tell you the one, it's not going to do me any favours telling you what this is. But I remember one day, it was my birthday, so we'd been out in the afternoon, me and a load of mates, and I was DJing that night. They were all going to come in with me. And let's just say I'd had one too many, and I was supposed to be DJing till 2:30. So at 11:30, I was like, thanks for, good night, ta. Started turning everything off, backing up. The manager of the bar coming over, said, what are you doing? I said, the end of the night, I'm finishing. He went, it's 11:30. I was about 3 hours too early, packing away, because I was levered. So really levered.
The indie DJ, you're sort of saying that you had to MC a little bit as well in between tracks. So does that mean you weren't actually mixing the tracks together? It's not a Northern Soul DJ, right?
No, you're still mixing or blending or dropping at certain points, and as long as your timing's right. That's the kind of DJ I always have been, because of Gobby as well.
Right.
So saying a lot on the mic as well as playing the music. And if you are in a bar and you've had a few Jack Daniels, you get well involved in it and can get a little bit carried away. But I think that's what I became known for and used to, performing, not drunk, but that particular way,
So people like your personality more, as well as your DJ.
Yeah.
For anybody that was sort of getting into indie rock, now we know these tracks, they're not all like dance music where you've got 8, 16 beats at the beginning, dead easy to mix. What kind of tips could you give to somebody that wants to mix that style of music?
Well, that's where the technical side of DJing comes in. Yeah. So obviously these days, it's always been a beat matching thing for dance DJs. You've got to be technically brilliant. You've got to put practice in like an instrument, learn your records, learn the timing. Don't use a BPM counter or whatever and cheat. Yeah. So if you're going to do like multi-genre kind of styles of music where you might be playing hip hop 1 minute and then indie the next, you're not going to be able to beat match that, are you? So that's when it comes down to you knowing your records and you having still an ability to make those two records not match beat perfect, but do it in a way where it sounds good.
Yeah,
And
the
it's not
ambulance,
just
the
fade in,
ambience.
fade out. You know,
The
you've got,
ambience.
if you're a DJ playing to a crowd, you've got to have a certain ability to play those records in a certain way.
Yeah. So you don't have like a format where you've got certain records that you always mix together. You'll read the crowd no matter what, and you change it up.
More or less, but there are still certain tunes where, you know, that'll go well with that, and it
Yeah.
always works well with that.
Yeah.
So you'll play them together. And at one point, and this doesn't sound like it's a good thing to do, but I was doing Smack My Bitch Up
Yeah.
and Thunderstruck by AC/DC.
That's
Because
probably a bootleg now.
it could be, yeah, not mine. It won't be mine because it'll have been mistimed somewhere down the line. But there's a break in Smack My Bitch Up. So when that guitar intro starts for AC/DC, it was a perfect thing to do, and you didn't have to be that technically brilliant to do that. It was just again about timing and saying your prayers while you did it.
Nice. How would you say nightlife has changed since you started out as a DJ? Like I said, I've been away for 15 years. I'm going to get back into some clubbing next month to read the crowds, but just teach me, like, what's the difference now, say 20 years ago?
To me, now it seems shocking.
Really?
If you go into, I don't know so much about Bolton, but I do think it's the same as Berry on a Friday night has gone pretty much downhill, which breaks my heart because when I first turned up in Berry, people would be out Sunday night, Wednesday night, definitely Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Right.
You go in bars, there'd be DJs on a Thursday night in Berry, and there'd be club nights, you know, at the Siberia and whatnot on a Wednesday, and that was your student night. So everybody had somewhere to go at certain nights of the week. Bolton's a big town, they'll have had the same things, but now nightlife, it seems like there's only one night to go out now anywhere, and that's a Saturday, unless you're going to Manchester or a big city like Liverpool or anywhere.
Is this post-COVID or pre-COVID?
I think it's definitely after COVID.
Right.
It might have been on the wane a bit before COVID, but and I don't know if, you know, a lot of younger people they prefer the gym to the pub now, don't they? And
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, like, a lot of my mates that would always be up for it now, I'm like, do you want to go for a beer? I sense some kind of social anxiety with a lot of people.
yeah.
Is this what's caused that, you reckon?
People are living their lives on the phones as well. They're not
Right.
interacting. And plus,
Yes.
years ago, if you wanted to pull, you had to go out and you had to talk to a girl or buy her a drink. These
Exactly.
days, you swipe left, swipe right. You're meeting someone in half an hour.
Good point.
So you haven't got a pub or club that you have to go to meet somebody.
Yeah.
Everything's done on the phone. And I've noticed it when I'm DJing at certain, if it was like if I'm doing a function, which I do a lot of these days. And people just sat there on the phones, not even talking to each other. You sat
Yeah.
around a table, or you're all on your Facebook, or you're giving it that for Instagram, looking like you're having a good time rather than having a good time.
Yeah.
It's a massive difference
Yeah,
there,
you
isn't
see
it?
that as well at concerts now. It's like, does anybody actually remember being there, that
Yeah.
experience? They've all got the
They're all
phones in
filming
the air,
it.
watching it
Yeah.
later on, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Interesting that. What do you think about people's attitudes towards DJs these days? I mean, you used to be sort of like the dude, didn't you? Everybody loved you, everybody wanted to be your mate. Is it now that you're just an annoying person in the corner making too much noise?
I think well, there's a couple of ways of looking at that. There's a lot of rudeness now and a lot of expectation. Plus, with people years ago, if someone came up to you and went, "Can you play this?" and if you didn't want to, or you didn't have it, you just said no, and that
Yeah,
was it. There's
yeah.
not a lot you could do about it. But now
Right.
you're getting a phone shoved in your face, going, "I've got it here. I'll plug it in." So now, you know, yeah, all right, yeah. I'll just unplug leads and that to satisfy you by plugging your phone in.
And now, how do you deal with that where you could used to be able to stand up for yourself? If you don't do what the client's asking now, you get fired.
If it's the client, then you can speak to him. If you don't agree with whatever it is, it's like these days, I can get sent a playlist and you're thinking, right, that's perfect for you and what you're listening to at home. But you've got to think about all the other people in the room and what they want. And
Exactly.
it isn't just down to you. You know, so at the end of the day, if you're booked as a DJ, then you're booked as the professional. Then what you say should go or have some kind of stance.
So-
But if the client would, you know, if they were putting their feet down and want that, then you've got to do it because that's what you're being paid for. They're employing you.
So DJs still have a bit of independency, or we just?
I think
like,
you've
just
got
puppets
to.
on a string.
A bit of both,
Bit of
really.
both.
You've got to toe the line, but really you should stand a bit proud and go, hang on a minute, that's not really going to work.
Yeah.
Or give them the benefit of your experience and say why you don't think that'll work. And if they don't agree, then you're not going to win, are you?
Well, I mean, for me, for example, when I got booked for DJing, somebody would hear me in a club, and that's what they wanted for the party.
Yeah.
So nobody ever messed with my stuff. I knew exactly what they wanted. But yeah, what I kind of retired in Vietnam just because I was being forced to play so many different genres in one night. I couldn't keep up with it. I got
Yeah.
lost.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know what I mean?
Well, again, so when I was doing the indie bar, and it's an indie bar, it's an indie rock bar, alternative music bar, and people come in and go, you know, put some R&B on.
Yeah.
Well, hang on a minute. You don't go in a Chinese restaurant and order a pepperoni pizza, do you? You're in the wrong place.
Now, you're famous for creating this festival in Berry, which is called Glaston Berry, not to be confused with the big Glastonbury, but you're doing this event which has helped a lot of people in the past. Please elaborate.
Yeah, well, Glaston Berry was set up in 2008 as a way of giving a platform to up-and-coming or young bands, maybe even not had a gig or you've only had a couple of gigs. So that was like the thought behind it. Let's do this thing, because back then on a bank holiday Monday, there was nothing to do in Berry. You stayed in and watched Mary Poppins or James Bond or whatnot. So we decided to do this day, and yeah, I'm very happy to say it's taken off over the years, and it's now a monster.
Wow, so you got about 5,000 people every year, yeah? And when is the next event?
August bank holiday Monday.
Okay, how much is the ticket for that?
It's going to be, it's been 10 quid for years. So you see around, well, you don't see 200 acts, but there's 200 acts available for 10 quid, which everyone's always said, you're not charging enough because it's a charity event.
Yeah.
Obviously, the cost of everything's gone up as well. So we're putting it up this year by 2 quid. So it'll be 12 quid this year.
And that's a one-day event?
Yeah.
All right, I'll be there for sure. Where can people find tickets for that?
You can probably, if you go through our website, which is www.glaston-berry.com, there'll be links on there. Tickets aren't available yet because we're in the process of sorting our website out, and we also go through Berry Met as well.
Excellent stuff. What's the biggest challenges when you organise an event on such a scale?
Well, there's all sorts. People don't realise the work that goes into these things, especially for us as a non-profit organisation. Everything that we make goes to Berry Hospice and other local charities. So it's hard work. When there's no, the only gratification you get out of it is what you're seeing at the end and the end product and where the money's going to. And on the day, we see so many smiling faces, which is good that we have had such a positive outcome from the event. But if you look at the staging cost, PA cost, lighting, sanitation, security, licenses, working constantly with your local authority, from the police to the council, working within the purple guides and other guidelines that you've got to do, meeting criterias, trying to keep everybody happy, trying to do so much within the confines of a town centre as well. It's difficult, it's stressful.
That's amazing. Since I've been back only about 3 weeks now, I sense a lot of hope with the UK. I think a lot of people are coming together and trying to do what you're doing, is help other people. I've been helped a lot, and I think there's a lot of hope there. So congratulations and well done. Respect. What do you think are the benefits of doing podcasts like this? This is a kind of a new thing still, right?
Well, yeah, this is just a new medium, isn't it? You know, years ago, the radio stations and, which is still going, an internet-based radio station, but podcasts are the new norm.
Yeah.
So it's really, really good, and I'm looking forward to starting mine.
Yeah, and you're trying to set up your own podcast soon. What can we expect from that?
I don't know yet.
Don't know yet. Well, I hope I could be a guest.
Well, no, we do know what we're going to do. I think there's going to be a lot of course, we'll get you in to talk about DJing.
Yeah.
I think we're going to go down the band route, interview a lot of bands, the different areas of where bands come from, covers against tribute and local bands. We're going to support a lot of local bands, give them a platform to voice, do what you're doing now with me, really.
Fantastic. And last question, brilliant interview. Are you optimistic about the future of the UK?
You've got to be, haven't you? There's no point looking down, and try and make a bit of change. If you think something's missing somewhere, then try and make a difference in that area.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to sit back and blame everybody else for everything going downhill. If you can help things go uphill, do it.
That's amazing. I'm going to ask one more question. If you could turn back the clock, what would you do differently?
Not get drunk that night when I told everyone to go home at 11:30, probably.
Well, fantastic. Bucko, amazing first guest.
Cheers,
Welcome,
pal.
everybody, to Redbridge Studios. This is the first of many. Amazing. I'll see you later.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys.
Cheers.
See you later.